Right. Question number 4. How did your mother treat your father and vice versa? Vice versa. Oh, man. So, overall, my parents treated each other pretty well. They have their issues. I don't have a ton of memories when I was younger. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm gonna be super real, especially now my dad is gone. My mom, she's still alive. And she sees these videos. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible, but I'm just gonna be real and raw so y'all can learn from my experiences. Now, what's gonna be really interesting is if my kid, like when my kids start coming out and sharing stuff, whatever they remember, even though me and their mom got divorced 6 years ago. Anyway, my oldest was like, she would have been like 9 when that happened, 8 or 9. So yeah, they were still pretty young when that happened. So they may not really remember much of it. So, and that's kind of sad because most of what they think of me, a lot of what they think of me is what they've been told by their mom and their grandma. So anyway, that's this whole, see, I be getting off these tangents. What was the question? How did your mother treat your father and vice versa? Yeah, I told my brother and I, we joke about, we hope our kids don't make diss tracks about us. Rap albums dogging us out. All right, so as single dad, so how did your mother treat your father and vice versa? Yeah, overall, my parents treat each other pretty well. I think I said in one of the earlier videos, and my dad used to like wash my mom's hair and treated her like a queen. She could get whatever she pretty much wanted. My mom used to go get her hair done, nails done regularly, all that. In the early stages of their marriage, she didn't have to work. I mean, they made it work financially because when they did the math on like what it would cost for daycare back then in the 90s and all that, it was, my mom stayed home. She studied for the CPA exam and she became an accountant. And then she used to sell like Mary Kay on the side and bake cakes and stuff for people. So my mom has always been, she got that from my grandpa, just that hustle, entrepreneurship kind of thing. Like, anyway. Yeah, so how do they treat each other really well. I feel like they treat each other with respect. I do have a memory of my dad once. I only saw my dad put his hands on my mom one time to restrain her. That was like when I was a little kid. I have this memory when I was like 5 years old. I don't think my parents even remember that, but I remember it. Because I asked my dad about it later, and I think he blocked it out. But other than that, I never saw my dad ever put his hands on my mom. I saw my mom toss some water in my dad's face once when they had an argument. And they would have their like arguments like every year. It seemed like every year, once a year, they would have like these big blow-ups. And they would just argue for like a week or something like that. And my brother, he would go over to my cousin Jahari's house. And I was stuck to watch all this craziness. And I would get sad and I would cry like, Daddy, please don't leave, please. But overall, they had a lot of good times. Like my dad, like I said, they used to go on cruises. My dad, I'm just straight up say it. I love my dad, but he was a simp with a capital S. I love you, Pops. Rest in peace. But if you had to look up simp in the dictionary, that was my dad. But that's what they work for them. My dad used to hold a purse. He used to, I always say how a relationship begins is how usually it's going to go and eventually end. Because early on, my dad was writing my mom all these letters. My mom was dating a football player when my dad stepped in. That's a whole nother story. But my dad out-simped Michael Buchanan, this football player at U City High School. And so, back in St. Louis, it's a whole nother side story. My dad was like sleeping in his car and just chasing my mom. Like, anyway, my dad once again, my dad, I think I told y'all earlier how it works better in a relationship when one person likes the other person more than the other person does. Like, the one person is more into the other person than that person's into them. then there's that chase. But I feel like it works better when the guy is the prize. Some of y'all gonna hate me for saying that. But there's something about when the woman likes the man more than the man likes the woman. Not say like when the woman is really into the guy and the guy feels like the prize. It's just something about it. I don't know. Or there's like kind of like a mutual chase going on. When it feels like both of them are chasing each other. And y'all able to somehow keep that cat and mouse game going the entire man. Like keep the other person guessing for years. Anyway. So yeah, my dad was capital Sim. Like he would hold the purse. He would we would go to my mom loved to shop because women be shopping. I remember being at the mall for hours. And my brother and I, we'd go find we would go to like the electronics area and Dillard's. We would find places to go and play games on the computers. We would just or we go find a chair and just sit. Or we would play games and pray to God. My mom would pinch us sometimes because we would do stuff we would find these like little plastic things and we would pop them and then it would shoot out the plastic in. It was like the clips that would go on the clothes and we would pop them and it would shoot out the plastic in and you would we would find rubber bands and shoot them at each other and mom would eventually pinch us because we couldn't go too far away. My dad would go find a chair sometimes, or a lot of times he was that good husband. He would walk around with my mom and tell her oh, that looks good. Because my mom had to pick out nice clothes for work. She was in corporate banking and finance and tax. She worked for Arthur Anderson and Bank of America at one point. Anyway, my mom was like a business lady. So my dad was good about that. My dad was very patient. My dad was one of the most patient men I've ever met in my entire life. I never heard that man complain. I know he wanted to, but he didn't. I feel like my mom being smarter than how to say, my dad was intelligent, but when it came to the other forms of intelligence, like street smarts or just overall wit, the fact that my mom had this college education, my mom was a city girl, my dad was this country boy. I feel like my mom could manipulate my dad. I don't think she was always trying to, and I didn't peep a lot of game because, sorry mom, I'm not trying to talk bad about you, but even my former wife, she would pick up stuff. She was your mom is manipulating y'all and y'all don't even see it. I was what are you talking about? And she would just say, she would give me examples of stuff. And I was oh, okay. It wasn't that big of a deal. I was so used to it. But overall, I feel like my parents loved each other. What else? What was the question again? How did your mother treat your father and vice versa? I feel okay, that's the big last thing I want to say. My dad, when he had his encounter with Jesus in 1983, and he broke away from Church of God, Saints of Christ religion, and he learned what it was like to have a relationship with Jesus. My dad was that radical Christian now. So he was up here, and my mom was I feel here, right? She loved Jesus, right? She had a relationship with Jesus, but she didn't have the same my dad was a water tower now. My mom was a kiddie pool. I don't know. And it's hard. Everybody's relationship with Jesus is different, It just, when it came to radicalness, my dad became a Navy SEAL or a Delta Force in the Army of God. And my mom was still in the Navy or the Coast Guard. Nothing wrong with that. We're the body of Christ. Not everybody can be the nose or the heartbeat or the brain. Some of us are a toe. Ain't nothing wrong with the toe. Some of us play the triangle in the band. Some of us play trumpet. Some of us play saxophone. Some of us got solos. Some of us always play part 3, third chair. So anyway, that caused a lot of friction in my parents' marriage and how they related to one another. Because my mom was never spiritual enough for my dad. Stay tuned.